Hello, everybody, and welcome to Untether.tv. I'm your host and founder, Rob Woodbridge. I hate to remind you again why you come here, but I'm going to. It is to find the behind-the-scenes activity that is. These are the things that are driving the mobile industry and the pervasive computing industry. These are the entrepreneurs, the visionaries, the guys who are feet on the street doing the things that you wish you could be doing, but now you're going to learn how they did it. Don't steal these ideas. Look for similarities. Look for ways that you can integrate some of their thinking into what you're doing, but do not steal. That is very, very wrong. I'm Canadian. In fact, my favorite baseball team was from Montreal, this city. Montreal Expos. Moved to Washington. I can't watch them anymore. But I have a great, great, great guest today, emanating from the States, landed in Montreal, has been funded by FounderFuel in Montreal. This is Mikeal Cho, who is the co-founder of OOMF. Mikeal, welcome.
Thanks, Rob. It's really great. I'm really, really excited to do this interview with you. So I've been a fan of your show for a while.
Nice.
So I'm psyched to get involved on an even deeper level.
I appreciate you being here. I mean, I'm so fascinated by what you're doing. You started a company, an app discovery company called OOMF. Then from there, you stem off and you create this something called LaunchThisYear, which I love it. I'm a big fan of these kind of habit forming or habit trying to form websites that have an outcome at the end of this. So a countdown, you're trying to launch an application in 1 year. But I got to ask, before we even get into any of this stuff, what's so important about this? What was the compelling reason to launch something like LaunchThisYear?
Yeah, I'm really, really glad you asked that, because actually in 2008, so when the App Store just sort of got started, there was that free course on iTunes taught by some guys at Stanford. And I was super, super excited about it. So I started to download everything. I downloaded the whole course book. I think it was almost over 30 hours worth of content. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend from January to March, and I'm going to learn how to do this, and I'm going to release an app. And as I was going through it, I was like, whoa, this is like a lot of content. And I do want to make an app, but I started to see myself, just like a lot of other sort of New Year's resolutions, they kind of fall by the wayside. You don't maybe know the next action that you're supposed to be doing all the time. So I was like, okay, I got a lot going on right now, and I'm going to move this to the side when I maybe pick up some other beginner programming things, because I didn't even know how to program at all. And you're jumping into something that's built on top of knowing some other, basics about programming. So put that aside and then just continued on. But that's sort of where the original inspiration actually came from for LaunchThisYear. And I was like, this doesn't exist yet, and this should exist. There should be a way that really actually helps people based on actions, like what they should do next all the time.
So what gives you the right to do this? Like, I mean, Apple had a right to do it, obviously, because they're in this space. They understand their business. At least they proclaim to at that point. So what gives you the right? Why you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of creating solutions to problems that are your own problems. So if it was something that you faced, and I don't care how many people ever end up using it, I'm like, if it's good for me, then I feel like there might be enough people out there that would also be interested in this thing. So that was one of the main reasons why. Plus, a lot of us had experience since 2008. We've been involved in agencies and making apps and making products. And there was sort of this, okay, we're in the App Store now. Now what? There's so many issues. There's basically two main problems. There's the one where it's, hey, I don't know how to make an app in the first place, so what do I do there? And the other one is, oh, I've got an app, but now what? I'm in the App Store. What's happening? I'm dropping, and I'm gone. Yeah. So that's where we really noticed a lot of the issues, and that's why we thought we were right to solve this, especially even from things that we got from OOMF. And we were getting people coming in on both sides, different types of customers.
All right. Well, let's take a step. I mean, because look, there's so much more that goes into this, and we're gonna talk about not only the premise behind this, about why start this, the reasons why it can work, the reasons why it won't work, who should be doing it, why should you be doing it, all those kind of great questions. We're also going to talk about discovery, which is a key theme for mobile developers everywhere. Just because you build it does not mean that they come. There's so much competition. I want to get into that. But I also want to understand And everybody out there should understand what OOMF is, because this is where it all stems from. This is where you find the problems, the challenges that a lot of people are having, and you're trying to solve them with LaunchThisYear. So what is OOMF?
Right. So the big vision for OOMF is based on the motion of you have an app and now it's in the App Store and it's lost. So working back from there, how do I get in touch with the press? How do I make a website that's effective for getting people to find my app in the App Store? How do I get people for pre-launch and so that I'm ready on launch day? So that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking you from idea to launch and beyond, providing you all the tools and tips that you need along the way. So that's OOMF in a nutshell.
So where does that stem from? I mean, obviously these are the challenges that everybody has. And I talk about this all the time with people that I work with, is that, you know, a launch doesn't happen on the day that you launch. There's a buildup. You've got to create anticipation. Is that really what this is about? Is that like the day that you launch, there's strategies so that when your app is available on any app store, there's a demand. So it plays in the algorithm of the app stores to be able to show momentum, right? That's what you guys do at OOMF?
Yeah. So what's pretty cool is we're creating creative ways that fit into that algorithm, right? So let's say all of these people, you have an app that's pre-launch and you can accept email signups and you can get people wanting your app. So they're sort of lining up. And then what we do on launch day, so you release in the App Store, we sort of know more or less you should put the first 1,000 people, you know, right away, right when you're in, boom. So you need that. And then there's sort of the additional things right after it in order to keep you in the rankings and keep moving you up. So we're using that sort of algorithm and then playing our product and marketing skills straight into that so that it works effectively. So it's not just a one-off, hey, you can use the tools and there's no method behind the madness. We are actually pairing them up, and that's what we're trying to do, like pair everything up together. So you don't have to think about it. We just do it in the background.
Well, it's a big problem, right? I call it the trough of despair, right? The first day that you launch the app and you start to see downloads and you see that curve, which is like, from 0. And if you've done it right, just the beginning, it goes up and then it goes up and then it goes up and then it just goes down even faster than it went up, doesn't it? Like that trough of despair. So what you're saying is that there are ways to be able to at least extend that slope, right? So that there is a gradual decline, but it's not straight up, peak, straight down.
Right, exactly. So what we're trying to prevent is exactly that. It's the, hey, okay, so that you've heard of paid installs and pumping it on day one, but then that's where you get that massive drop. There's no engagement. Yeah, there's no engagement from those people that are downloading your app at all. So we're creating sort of a creative way to get those engaged users in that pre-launch phase. We're using that pre-launch space to pull people in and really get them involved in what you're doing. And so you're more than just an icon and a developer name in the App Store. We're trying to actually wrap that story around the creation. Like, similar to what you do. You're telling the stories behind companies and cool products. And I think a lot of people want to know that stuff.
Well, I hope so. My mom certainly does.
Yeah.
So you're telling how? Can you give an example of how this works? Like, there's got to be a process that you guys use. Don't give away any of the secrets, but I want people to pay you to do that. But there's got to be something that you can help to demonstrate that. Listen, it's not always up and then a free fall.
Yeah. So there's two main things that we offer. So a lot of people will ask, why should I? One of the things we do is help you make a website that showcases your app. So a lot of people will be like, okay, I'm a developer. I know how to make my own website. Why would I go with you guys? The one big thing that we do different is we essentially give you two. We give you two websites. We give you the one where you can customize everything and throw it out in the wild and use it just like a normal website, put your own custom domain and everything on it. But then we have this other one, which we call right now the story page. And this links to your website that's out there. And on this story page, you can go and tell everything that you're doing. So if you have two icons, we've seen this a lot. Oh, I don't know which icon to choose, which one's going to do better in the App Store. We have a little thing where you can put two of them up side by side and do like a hot or not. Which one do you prefer? And it goes out to all the OOMF people. So that story page lives inside of OOMF. And then you've got your other page that lives out in the wild. So it's pretty cool that you can use OOMF and the community that we have here to basically filter into your app and become involved in the process. So they're saying, if your app is in the App Store and they voted on that icon that's showing, it's kind of like, hey, I kind of played a part in that thing. So we're doing all of those little things inside, and those are that's the main premise behind it, is creating engagement through creative techniques on that story page.
So wisdom of the crowd type of thing, right? That you're bringing in the community. How big is the OOMF community? Obviously growing every day.
Yeah. So to give you an example, let's say from LaunchThisYear, we had over 17,000 members in less than a week.
Wow.
So the community is growing. It's tens of thousands of members now. In terms of engagement, that's growing as well as the product moves forward. And we haven't really started doing a lot of marketing. A lot of it has just been word of mouth sort of growth so far. So we're really excited once this gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's an altruistic sort of bottom line to all of it. You might see in some of the copy on the site, we're always talking about sort of put aside what you're doing for a second, and let's just all step back and talk about what the hell we're doing. Like, let's take a moment, and we're all creating things. Why are we creating these things, and how can we help each other? Because this is a bitch to overcome. So let's all do this together. That's what we're trying to create.
Walk me through the process by which you kind of refined this business model for OOMF, right? So this is a for-pay service fee, right? You charge for this. Is it a flat fee? Is it a monthly fee? How do you do that? And then even take a step further back and I mean, how did you refine this business idea? And then you raised money, of all things, to be able to go out and do this. You raised $500,000, right?
Yeah. So if we step back first, some of what we have is paid. So the majority of what we have on the site is completely free. So you can do all the functions. You can create both websites, the story page and the custom one, without paying anything. It's just if you want some add-ons and some extra things, to bells and whistles to make it that much more, that's where we have a pro plan for that.
Okay.
And then if we step further back from there, so refining the business idea, that's a story in itself. And,
usually is.
We came in, so FounderFuel started last year about this time. We came in with a completely different idea. It was not even related to mobile apps.
What was the idea?
So that idea was based on influence marketing. So using people, not using people, but allowing people to sort of leverage their own influence to share things that they enjoy, and they might get something in return for that. But we were trying to create it so it wasn't crap. We didn't want this like weird tap on the back sort of service. So we were playing with that for the first couple weeks in FounderFuel, and then we had a mentor day, which is when you meet with like 200 top tech people in Canada, and they all shit on your business. So that's exactly what happened. And I'm gonna email you. I should probably email you a picture of we took a picture of their faces when we were explaining the idea to them.
No.
And it was the best pictures. Whenever we show it at a conference or a talk, people just start dying.
And it was absolute like was it confusion, bewilderment? They didn't know what you're talking about. What was it?
It was kind of like, how did you get in? It was kind of like, all of those things into one. But we're pretty good at taking feedback in and really talking with a lot of people. So,
do you remember one piece of feedback that they gave you at the time? Like, was there anybody that stuck out in your mind at that time that just said something that you can call them out here on?
There was a lot. I mean, I remember our notepad. It was at a hotel, and they give you one of the little notepads. I remember not being able to read anything I wrote on them after, but we filled up the whole thing, and I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do, guys, because like everything that we had, we were there probably till 11 p.m. and I can't put my finger on any one specific thing that made us turn that day into something new. But
how does that feel, though? Mikael, how does that feel? Like you've got a semblance of an idea. It doesn't sound like you've got it really baked at this point, but you're in there. You've made it in there. So there's a little bit of momentum. You're feeling a little bit confident, and then you walk into this brick wall of stunned and amazed people that are trying to figure out what your business is. So it's 11 o'clock that night. You've got pages of notes. You've just basically been reamed, and you look at your co-founders and say, "What? Like demoralized, drunk? Like what?"
That was that was the lowest and hardest day I've ever experienced. Probably ever experienced. Wow. So you're sitting there, you have nothing, you have 11 weeks left. You're competing against companies and teams that have been working on their company for 2 years. And you're thinking because maybe one of these companies is going to get a follow-on investment. So how do you say in 11 weeks, we're going to be able to go up on demo day in front of even more people? We're going to go up in front of 1,000 people, and they're going to be interested enough to give us money to continue. So you don't know at all. We're 2 weeks in, we don't know anything. And I remember we did sit there. We were very resilient and not hard on each other. I think that was important. Like there was no blame. Oh, hey, maybe it was the designs of the slides. You suck. There was none of that stuff, which I think was really good. But it was hard to say that there would be anything positive necessarily that we said to one another. It was kind of just like we're just kind of sitting there. Oh man.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. And if you look at Dragon's Den or Shark Tank in the U.S., the equivalent. I get the picture that kind of these kind of mentor days are like that. It's like no holds barred. And I've done a couple of these, and in fact, people have pulled me aside and said, "Hey, listen, Rob, could you be a little bit less honest with your feedback?" And it just sounds to me like, no, if you're sitting there in front of me pitching an idea and I think it's crappy, I'm going to tell you my opinion. Now, what you do with that is your own, but if you're not honest, and it sounds like they were honest, then you're doing a disservice to the entrepreneur. It's like that person who gets up on karaoke night and is terrible, and people applaud, and they get back up because they think they're good, right? So,
100%.
Not saying that I think that you're not a good karaoke singer, but so you left there, and then you regroup. And how did you land on this idea then?
So I have this, I use notes, and I just store sort of any startup idea I've ever had.
Nice.
And I kind of, there was that Jack Dorsey interview on YouTube. I think he did it with Kevin Rose, and he was talking about how it's okay to put things on the shelf. So like Twitter was on the shelf. He's got ideas, and that's sort of my shelf. So if there's ever a moment like this moment, this is what it was kind of created for. If you need to come up with an idea
you need to get what idea do we have?
Exactly.
Anyone here? Yeah.
When you have that much pressure and you're trying to be creative and come up with a life-changing idea, it would be super, super hard not to start anywhere, I think. So I had probably 11 or 12 ideas, and we basically put them on a whiteboard one night. I think it was the night after, and we just started hammering into every idea, like which one. And this idea was not on that list. So we went through all of those, and it wasn't even there.
Did you ever think, oh, I quit? Like, did you ever think, like, was there ever a point in that conversation where you're like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done. There's nothing here.
There was never an I quit, and there was never an I quit from any of us. Yes. So I think that was super important.
All right. Because
knowing that we could get out of there doesn't matter what happens now. Like if this happened, we got one of our competitors or something surpasses us and gets more funding and releases the thing we're going to release next. We are unfazed, and it's pretty cool to have that because of that moment.
All right, so you've got these 11 ideas on the board. None of them are hitting what you guys want to hit. You're running out of time.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden, OOMF just what? Like it sounds, somebody punched you in the gut and it's like, oh, I got it.
That's funny you say that, because we were at Noodles place on Saint Laurent. It's me and one of my co-founders. And I added some hot sauce. That's exactly it. So I had this punch in the stomach. So we were like, oh, this is really good food. And then we're like, hey, Apple requires everybody to have websites. You remember when you go through apps and everything, and then you click over and you see the website? A lot of those look like crap. Why don't we make them look really good and really easy to make? And that was the whole sort of start.
That was it.
Of everything. Yeah. It was just, we were on our phones. So we were on our phones, checking into Foursquare, whatever, going in the App Store, because we're still looking for ideas at this point. We're clicking over, we're looking at websites, and we're like, man, why can't we just make it really, there's so many. They're like, I don't know how many. We didn't do the research at that point yet, but we're like, there's got to be tons. So what if everyone's required? It's like the government saying, everybody, you have to have a website. So we're like, hey, why don't we make websites for all these people and make it really, really easy? So then that's where it all started.
So you came at it. You guys come from the agency world, right? That's your background. So
yeah.
Website development, creative collateral, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, website development, experience, mobile. Yeah.
And you guys quit your job to go into FounderFuel?
Yeah. So we actually, all of us were full-time on OOMF starting 2 or 3 months before. Okay. Then we applied to FounderFuel because we were doing contract work, but also sort of working on OOMF. Oh. A little bit of the 37 sort of model.
Well, and it's a lot of people do, and then you just don't want to be consumed. But was that hard to balance, that ability to?
Super.
Okay, so did you spend more time on the contract work than you did on anything to do with your original business?
That was the main reason why we decided to join FounderFuel, was the opportunity to focus. So,
and you were focusing on the wrong idea. I love it. It's just so great.
Yeah, the opportunity to focus, even if it's on the wrong idea. But yeah, it's just up until that point, when you're working for agencies all the time, you don't even know what your full potential is because you're working on 6 or 7 different products all the time. So that was the opportunity. So it was much more than, here's a chance to build a startup. No, it was more, here's the opportunity to see what you're made of and what you can do doing one thing and doing it well.
It's a good test. It's a very good test.
Yeah.
All right, so you have the tools to be able to move into this business, into the creative side, into building websites for app launches. Then what do you do with that? So you go back in the next day or late that night, and then what was your next step after that?
Well, we wanted to do Real Ventures are the guys that run FounderFuel. So the next step for us was to kind of run that by John. John was one of the partners, John Stokes. Yep. So I remember going on to him and telling him, and at this point we had changed like 3 or 4 ideas, and I keep running them by him, and he was like, "Shit," in his British accent, "Shit."
How far into this are you now? So the original one was 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we had I think it was 9th or 10th week. So we only had 9 or 10 weeks left. Yeah. So we saw nothing. We have nothing. And yeah, I remember him stopping him in the hallway, and I was like, "John, we're going to build a launch rock for mobile apps." So I knew I had to keep it short. And he said, "It sounds interesting." And he's like, "Go." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like, okay, guys, we got the go ahead. Let's go. As he's walking up the stairs, I remember he turned around and he says, "But I think it's more about discovery."
Nice.
So I said, "Oh, what does that mean?" So now, we're going ahead with the landing pages. We know that, but I have this thing in my head. What does he mean? What is this discovery? What does he mean by it? Is it us discovering apps? Is it helping people who are making apps discover it? So yeah, we started on the landing page thing, but in my mind, the whole time I'm thinking, okay, how are we going to move this forward into something that can be bigger? What's the big vision? We have this thing that is sort of a tool that is needed. We think we did a lot of customer development that next week and a half. Actually, we reached out and met. I think I met with I think it was over 25 people in person by Metro for 5 days over the next 5 days.
Wow.
So it was like customer development on steroids. To determine that this is actually something that we could build and people would use and might pay for.
And then you're off.
Then we were off, yeah.
And obviously, if we kind of fast forward through that process, you managed to close a round of funding. You raised $500,000 on the back of the idea. And how did that feel? So was there another mentor day, or did it 9 or 10 weeks later, was it just over? You did your presentation.
So in 9 weeks, you have sort of talks in and out, but there's not another day where you're presenting to everybody. Now everything is working up to demo day.
So what happens on demo day for you then?
Yeah, so demo day, there's 12 teams total, and we did it's about a 5-minute pitch that everybody gets, and you're in front of, I think it's between 900 and 1,000 people. I remember going up. We, at that point, were very, very confident. It's crazy to go from mentor to demo day. I mean, it was just insane. But we were actually updating one of our slides because we didn't know if we were going to have any traction on demo day. We didn't know if we were going to have anybody signing up for this. But we tried so many things to get people interested in what we were doing. And one thing that we tried the day before, it worked. So we went from like 150 people who were just hanging out on the site, a lot of them were just our friends, to almost over 2,000 right before the pitch. So we were sitting backstage, sort of watching the ticker, and we're like, okay, how high can we get it to 2,000 and then update the slide so then we can go and present that.
So what did you do?
Yeah, so one of the things we did was we allowed people we pre-created pages. So since we had an Apple partnership, so we could create pages for everybody, and then we just made it super easy for them to come in and claim them if they wanted them.
So you pre-built app pages for existing apps, or for
existing? Yeah. So and we allowed people to just kind of come in and claim them, and we only did that for a couple of days, and that's what happened. And it shot up right away, and allowed us to show that slide, which I think was super, super important to having us continue with our business. It showed more than, oh, there's some traction here. I think it showed more like you had 9 weeks and now you have product in market, you have traction, and you have a vision. What?
Where did this come from? Did you shock your original mentors from that mentor day?
Oh yeah, there was tweets. I remember them going off, and one of my co-founders showed me after the pitch, like, people are stunned by what you guys are. You were you didn't have a business. You were like 3 businesses rolled into one, but didn't even have one back then, and now you're this. So yeah, there was a lot of momentum then from there. That was like a point in time that started it.
Now, let me just ask as a kind of a side question to this. When you go through that, and we see this a lot, right? So especially in the mobile space where people are testing ideas, and if it doesn't work, they'll just say, okay, we'll go over here and do a different idea. We'll go over here and do a different idea, because it's a technology that enables testing before you can deploy, right? And you can get users, and you can do testing very quickly, A/B testing. So
right.
When you went through this process and you got reamed by the mentors and mentor day, you went off and you found this new idea. I'm just, as an entrepreneur myself, I think, like, I get passionate. I get wound up in my own ideas. Like, I bleed my own ideas. So you go from the original idea, you get hammered, you're forced to let go of that very quickly, find a new idea. How quickly do you guys, as the co-founders, kind of become passionate about that new idea? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And all of you who were co-founders over here stayed co-founders throughout that whole process, and became passionate about what OOMF became. How does that take a long time?
that was actually one of our criteria for an idea. So we would evaluate it, and we drew a little circle, and there was 3 pieces to it. One of them was it needed to be a big market. One of it was we needed to be passionate about it. And the third was, could we be the best? Can we take it over and be the best? So that idea fit all 3 of those. And that's how we evaluated each idea. And if it didn't fit with all 4 of us, like there was not a democracy. It was everybody in or not, it's out.
Okay, so, and that's an interesting thing, right? It's that, sometimes you'll get 2 out of the 3 founders or co-founders say, yeah, I love that idea. And the one guy saying, nope, nope, nope. And at one point you got to say, well, okay, well then you go find your work and we'll carry this on. Okay, so you're at that point where you have raised, you succeeded in the launch on demo day. Everybody is raving, but you got 2,000 people that are using this, and then how soon after that do you close the round?
So we had enough confirmed interest, just without the papers signed, but everybody said they were in within a month after demo day, which is comparatively super fast.
No kidding.
Yeah, so we were told it could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months before you close.
So what you're telling me is that between 9 and 13 weeks after you came up with this idea while having some spicy sauce at a noodle shop, you're funded.
Yes.
Well, there's the title of this episode right there. Well, thank you. You made my job easier. And when did you close that round? How long ago?
So it was closed over the summer, and then we announced everything in September.
And then
beginning of September.
What was that like? Like, come on, like you sit back and you go through that struggle. You're not paid a lot of money being a part of FounderFuel,
right.
But it's it's the brotherhood, it's the camaraderie that you do it for, it's the network, it's the connections, it's those mentors, it's that whole process. But really, when you take that check and you put it in your bank, what does that feel like?
It's a really good question. So, first I remember setting up the bank accounts, and then I remember all of a sudden seeing a 500 with a bunch of other zeros and the dot, not the other way around, not 5 dot something or dot 5 something.
Yeah.
So that was like, I can't believe we did that.
So does that put the fear of God in you then? All of a sudden it's like, okay, yay, but then what comes with that money?
Yeah. So what's interesting is FounderFuel, even though they only give you a little bit, right? They give you 25. At that time, I think they changed it now, but you're giving 25,000 for 6% of your company.
Yeah.
That was the first time any of us had received any funding. So we treated that $25,000 like that was gold. I mean, it was this thing that somebody's paying you to go do what you want to do. So that practice over that 12 weeks dealing with that was essentially, we just took everything we learned from that. We're like, we just need to do the same thing. Even though it seems like a lot more, we know it's going to go really, really fast. Let's do exactly what we did, and as much as we can with this 25,000, and do it with the 500,000.
Wow! And so you've done that.
Yes.
You remain lean. You remain like a small startup. There are 4 of you guys, you said, that are involved. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really look up to. I saw an interview with Kevin from Instagram. And I remember I think there was an interview where he was checking the servers on Instagram, and he's the CEO, he's in an interview, he's like, oh, sorry, I got to check this just in case the Instagram goes down. They only had, I think it was 10 was their count when they got bought by Facebook. I really like that small, fast maneuvering speedboat type of team. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're all about. Just trying to keep it as fast as possible like that.
Well, there are similarities, right? Because, when they started, when Instagram started, System was invested. I can't remember the name of the VC, but the VC had an investment in Instagram and an investment in one of their competitors, and they said that we are no longer going to invest in you, Instagram. We are going to put all our money back into your competitor. No, sorry about that. So they were left for dead pretty much at that point. And then, well, the rest is history, as they say. 90 million users and $780 million acquisition. No revenue model, but I guess you don't need one of those. But user base is what you need. So, all right. So now we spent 35 minutes talking about this. It's a fascinating story. I love getting a little bit of a glimpse behind the scenes, and we haven't touched on anything that we were going to talk about. So we're going to cruise through this, and I get so fascinated by that startup process and this industry. It just shows you there's a niche opportunity everywhere you go. You can sit in a noodle shop and decide at that moment. Listen, there's an emptiness. There is a hole in entrepreneurs. The definition of entrepreneurs is you just go find a hole and plug it, right? And that's exactly what you did. So you found that the technique around pre-populating or pre-creating these pages for the apps that are out there, brilliant, right? Certainly who's not going to claim it? If you put my name on anything, I'm going to buy it, right? It's pretty much satisfying an ego. So after you launch in the fall of 2012, as we said, you then go out and you extend the services. How quickly after did you go from just building websites into really, I guess, app discovery, which is odd enough. You took that to heart, obviously.
Yeah. So we took the summer fundraising essentially, and that's a very lengthy process. So we had a sign-up page up that was saying, I think it was the future of social app discovery is coming soon. That was our website then. And in September, when we were announcing the funding, we wanted to sort of group everything together. We wanted to show everybody sort of where we're heading. We have discovery, we have these tools, and we want to show where we're going to be heading. It might not all be ready yet, but we're going to push this out with what we got. And that was the moment where we said we wanted to. Let's see what happens. Let's push both of these out. And yes, we've got some things for people who are making apps, and we have this discovery thing. Let's use this moment to collect some feedback on this so we can continue. Because, like we were talking before, there's life after that. And the tech crunch of initiation. What happens on day 2? So we were going to use that as a point to get feedback. Okay,
and then so. How did you find your first customers? Like, obviously, the 2,000 people that were engaged with you already that you had leading into this. I mean, was that where you pulled your customers from?
So yeah, we had those as initial customers, plus the people that we were meeting with, all the customer development interviews. People were coming in from that. And then when we got the press, we had a large amount of press actually on September, at the beginning of September, and that's where a lot of new people came in and were really interested in what we were doing.
So has that maintained? Like, has that scale of interest maintained? Like, it's the same thing with the app world, right? Is that you go through this rocket up and then a trough of despair, and it's the same thing when you get featured in, like Tech Vibes or TechCrunch or any of these other, websites where people sign up and it's like, oh, I'm so yeah, and then the next day they don't even log in and it's done, right? So, did that happen to you? Were you victims of that, or how did you maintain that kind of, the gradual glide back to normalcy?
Yeah, no, it happened. I mean, I knew, but we knew it was going to happen. And the way that we approach dealing with press and journalists, and we wanted to do ourselves what we tell all the app makers to do, is it's a long-term relationship. I mean, this is not do anything you can to get that one TechCrunch article and then you're good. No, it needs to be, I'm genuinely interested in the work that you do as a writer, and we are going to continue this relationship, and you need to be dedicated to that. So that's our approach. And whatever event fits into their audience or their reader, that's what matters. And that's when you approach them. You don't approach them with a random 2.0 update that has a bug fix. They're not going to write. Don't waste time with that stuff. Don't waste their time. So that's a big thing for us, and we wrote a big, lengthy sort of blog post on everything we did to get press for our launch day. So we look at it as a continuous thing. I mean, we have something I can tell you that we haven't really told anybody. In our Google Calendar, we have a schedule where it's like, go and check the Hootsuite channel that has all of the writers that we're interested in, and keep doing that. Like, don't just do it one day and never do it again, because at one point you're interested in them and you are interested in them. So continue cultivating those relationships. And
you're so right. This is effort. I mean, that's all it is, right? You've got to put the time in to be able to do this, and the good companies do. They understand that they can't get too high in the hog when things are going so well, and they can't get too depressed when things aren't going as well, and you're not in the limelight, because that's when you do the work, right? Ultimately.
Right.
Okay, so now you've got these services launched. You're in discovery. People are finding you out. You're creating the relationships. Then you start to notice some trends. Where does the idea from LaunchThisYear come in, and how do you execute on that while you're still building out OOMF? Like, that's a lot of work for 4 guys.
Yeah. So after we launched in September, we had discovery and we had basically the tools for anybody who's building an app. But there was this piece that was missing, and we kind of touched on it a little bit before, about how do I make a good app? How do I market it? And there's a lot of education that goes with that. So one thing we did right after we launched was we got all this feedback from people who were like, I don't even know how to make a good icon to upload an icon. So let's step back. How can we do this? And we started with something called a workbook. And it was part of the accounts inside of OOMF. And people could kind of go step by step from idea through design, development, push, and launch. And there was tips that they could follow along the way. It's almost like a little school built into their account. The engagement was okay, and it was inside of everybody's account. But we're like, hey, we could probably do something better with this. Maybe there's just a different way we need to implement it, because people say there's good content in there, but it's just not that easy to follow. It's just kind of there. We took all of that and we're like, how can we frame this differently where it would be a lot easier to go through and not seem like such a hassle? Like, there's so much content, like, how am I ever going to get through this thing? And that's when we started thinking about LaunchThisYear. I think this was in November. And we were thinking, okay, we wanted to do something after the new year that would be interesting for people who were going to create apps this year. And that's where it came together. We're like, let's take that content, let's implement it completely differently, walk people through so they can actually learn what it takes to make a good app, not just another crappy app that sits in the App Store. What does it actually take to make a good app? And even if maybe they don't end up finishing, let's say, they will know what goes into making one. You know, you have more respect now for those guys that are slaving away with every pixel and those transitions of the user experience. That's sort of the other thing that we wanted to do here. You know, it's like, here's all the skills, and this is what people are learning. This is what goes into it.
Well, was the goal to make more apps, to have more apps made? Like, Lord knows we need more apps. Like, we need it, you know. I mean, apps are not new. We've been using desktop applications since the dawn of the desktop and before that. But was it to make more apps? Was that a metric for you, or was it to actually turn people away from making apps, or was it for people that are like, you know what, I can make that, and you know what, I'm never going to pay 99 cents for that. How long did it take to make that? Meanwhile, somebody's poured their blood, sweat, and tears, and 400 hours of development time into a 99-cent app, and people are scoffing at the price. So, I mean, what was it like to make more apps? Was it to teach people that it's very difficult and that they should respect the 99 cents that they have to pay for it? What was it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's interesting about this is we want to teach people how to make a good app. Now, as you're going through it, if you don't know this or you don't know this, you are going to see how challenging it actually is. You're going to get to this skill and you're going to be like, I had no idea that I know this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And we're going to help as best as we can. But now there's a knowledge from people who, I have probably never met one person who said they didn't have an idea for an app. So you're giving knowledge to people who wouldn't have known what goes into this process before. So they're learning about the process and they can go through it themselves in a very easy sort of way, while at the same time, they might end up creating their app, but at the same time, they're going to learn, oh, I had no idea. There's,
a little harder.
This is just an icon. That's just an icon step. I didn't know that people do this like crazy like that. So there's two. Yeah, you're right. There's two pieces to that. When we're teaching people to respect what the work that is done and software. It's less tangible than an iPhone. You can kind of respect this. It's heavy. You've got stuff on it and it moves fast, and take pictures and print them out, and there's tangible things. But when you see an app, it looks so small. So we're trying to show the deepness and the depth that's involved.
And I mean, I love that answer, is that, software developers don't get a lot of respect, especially in the App Store. The App Store has kind of democratized the price of apps across the board. Is that now you're thinking that, no, I would never spend $80 or $100 on a word processing application. I'll spend $10 on that, and if that, or it's free with Evernote, right? So we've completely skewed our perception of what value is when it comes to the amount of effort that it takes to build software. And so maybe that'll illuminate that. But I mean, there are a lot of people out there who have built apps, and I don't know a soul. Even my kids, they're 6, have ideas about what they could build for an app, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good, right? How do we rid the world of crappy apps? Because there are probably about 750,000 of them out there.
Right.
So, how do you do that?
That's a challenge, right? Because if you're spending time on an idea, you probably think it's good. So that's why
I've spent 3 years on Untitled.tv, and you know what? I think it's good, but
I watch it, so I think it's good. So that's
so how do you know?
Why,
yeah.
The first skill that we have is called idea creator.
Yeah.
So there's a reason we start with that one, and it kicks you off to knowing right away, oh, maybe this thing that I'm thinking about is not good because I just thought it was a cool thing. It's not something that I actually want to exist, or it's not something that will change the world. And what's really cool is we're getting emails from people, guys that have built over 20 apps. And he's a pro, and he wrote to us the other day. He says, you guys help me think back to why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's like I'm making this thing right now, and I don't even really know why. I'm just making it. So now you're helping me think back. I'm a creator of products, and why am I doing it? So it was pretty cool to get those sorts of messages.
All right. Well, I mean, I suppose, there is a satisfaction in knowing that, listen, to recenter, to rethink things through, to understand the complexity it actually takes to build an app. And you know what, 90 days is a long time when you're in the middle of app development, and there's so many different things that go into it, from icon design to pricing to effective marketing, updating, all of that. I mean, and it's covered so well in the site, and it's covered in a way that is, allows you to get things done, right? Which is small, tangible chunks, like do this first, do this next, then do this, and that process is invaluable. What do you say to the guy who's been out there, who's got an app, or is trying to build an app, and is getting no traction, no feedback? Nobody's downloading, nobody's paying for it. I mean, at what point do you, and you've gone through this, right? So your opinion matters here, because you went through this with your own business to try to figure out how, you were shut down, shut out, destroyed after the mentor day. So how do you tell, a mobile entrepreneur that, listen, it might be time to either put that one away, shift focus, change your thinking, like that guy who wrote that email. I mean, when should people give up on their apps?
Another good question. I think one of the things, obviously starting off, let's say if you weren't passionate about the idea that you have, you're going to probably have an issue at some point, because that phase will come. It might be worse or better for certain people, but there's going to be a phase where you sort of second guess what you're creating. It just depends at what scale. So that's where sort of the passion from within you can come back and drive you over that. So to the guy who maybe doesn't have something in it, that's something that he could evaluate at least, would be why am I doing this? And then, is this something that I could continue doing and continue getting nobody interested and still enjoy what I'm doing? Right. You know, is that, and if I can't do that, then that's where you shut it off. If you say, if I can't go with nobody looking at this thing except for me for the next 3 months, no matter what I do, then maybe you want to shift directions or change something. That's probably the best answer that I could give.
It makes sense. I mean, I've known a lot of mobile entrepreneurs. Obviously, the guys that have built great applications that have gone either way. Right? It's been a passion project that they've had 3 or 4 million downloads. You know, there's an app called Planets based out of here in Ottawa. Dana built this app, and he's just a passionate guy, and he had literally over 4 million downloads, which is astounding, from around the world. You know, that's a number that is you know, more than 10% of the population of Canada using this application. So if you think about that, then I've had people that, and he has no intent of turning that into revenue. It's just a pure passion project, and God bless him, he's doing great. Now, the other side is that I've had many people who have just gone in it for the reason to generate revenue. Like, this is an opportunistic. I don't care about the devices. I don't care about the industry. I see an opportunity. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to exploit it. I'm going to make some money. And some have succeeded. Some have failed. Is there any advice that you would give people that are out there thinking, I want to get into this space? You know, I have a passion, but I can't monetize. I'm interested in monetizing. Where should these guys focus first? Should they focus on passion or revenue potential? Or is there an answer?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, there's a lot of, you could go either way on it, but I think that having the passion and taking the time to figure out an idea that you are passionate about is one of the things that I would look back on as maybe one of the mistakes that we made, because the idea that we came into FounderFuel was just a cool little change on things that currently existed, and we're like, hey, this would be cool if it existed. It was less of a, we're super passionate about this influence marketing, this is crazy and we should do this thing. That wasn't there. So I think we would have felt much differently about the idea had that passion been there from the start about the idea. So I would lean heavily towards the passion over revenue at the start, because I think you can figure out a way to work the revenue in later. I always think there's a way to do that. But starting off on the road where you're not interested in the field where you're building something, I think it's hard, because the road is long, especially for mobile apps.
It is, and there are over 1 million of these. What, like 1.5 million?
Yeah.
And just growing at a rate. You know, there's some that just drop off completely, and I always wonder how many are active out of those, you know, those statistics that they throw out there. But it is a very competitive space, and if you've thought of an idea, somebody else has as well. And, you know, a variation of a variation of a variation at some point becomes no longer a passion. It becomes about money, and those often don't work. So I'm with you on that. Passion is very important, and passion projects are what you hear about, the ones that took 6 years to build. You know, in this industry, and what I do, it's Leo Laporte. I mean, this is just what he did. He just did it, and he did it, and he did it, and he did it. And sometimes he gets vilified now because he built a $2 million studio and has, you know, 38 shows, and he's now just like a broadcaster. But any one of us would change places with him. But it took him years to do it. So same thing in the mobile space.
Yeah, I agree.
Mikeal, you know, we spent an hour talking about you guys and your business. We didn't even dive into any of the fundamentals about some of the tactics that that you would recommend that people implement in order to be able to go out and build their apps, go out and create awareness for their apps. We've touched on a little bit, but not enough. I'm not satisfied at all.
Time went fast.
It did. And so what I'm asking you, and I do this on tape for a reason, filming this, is that I would love to have you back very soon, and we would dedicate an entire episode to really highlighting what it is that is in that offering for launch this year. So to go in there and really dive into how to launch an app in this, to walk through your process. Would you be willing to do that?
Most definitely.
Okay. Yeah. So I will arrange with Mikeal to come back on very soon, to come back on and dive into this. It might be a shorter episode, maybe 30 minutes or something like that. But I just feel that I got so wrapped up in your story, which is an incredible one over the last year, and I would love to be able to bring him back on. So I will arrange that for you. So sorry if you sat through this entire episode and you didn't get what you wanted, but the story is remarkable, and I appreciate Mikeal for telling us that. So we'll get him back on. Is that good with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
All right. So where can we send people now? Are you accepting people for Launch This Year?
Yeah, Launch This Year is immediate access right now, and we're holding back each of the skills so that you're not too overwhelmed, and we're just trying to walk you through everything. And it depends, whenever you come in, if you're listening to this in April, let's say, there might be a few backlogged ones that you'll all have access to, but we're keeping that track very tight so that it's not overwhelming, because when you break it into the small actions and you have good resources along the way, it's going to seem like fun. And that's what we're trying to make there.
It's going to seem like fun. Like it's getting like getting waxed. It's like that kind of fun when you're building it out. What about, so I'm going to finish on this question. Obviously, there's a motive behind Launch This Year, right? Like you guys are interested in building OOMF, the business of OOMF. So what do you hope happens? Do you hope that that becomes a source of leads for you guys? Is that important to you, or there's an altruism here, like you said, but there's got to be something that turns on this. Investors don't put money into you guys with hopes that you will support a community and not make money back for them.
Right, yeah. So Launch This Year is something that we're hoping people might use the tools. We're hoping people might use the OOMF tools. But again, it was recognizing a need that we were trying to solve in a certain way on OOMF. But we recognized that if we framed it a little bit differently, that it could fit better. So that's really what we did. We created this as almost a separate little piece that does feed into OOMF, and there's parallels, where people can use some of the things that we have there. But that's really what it is. There's an element of this is just good for people to have, but there's also the, hey, we hope that you come and use some of the tools.
That's a good answer. It is. It's good to have. And we will dive into this the next time that we meet. So where should we send people right now?
So let's do oomf.com. It'd be the best.
OOOMF.com, right?
OOOMF.com.
And then they can go to they can go to LaunchThisYear as well. LaunchThisYear.com.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for more about that.
OOOMF.com and LaunchThisYear.com. Mikeal, I can't thank you enough for doing this. And we will have you back on to do the second part of this interview. We just got consumed. I really appreciate the time. I'm so happy that you have made that move up into Montreal, into Canada, and I hope you stick around for quite some time and you don't go back to the States and you start to build a great Canadian company like you are with OOMF inside of Montreal, inside of these Canadian borders.
Well, I'll be here. I'm engaged now. So.
To a Montrealer?
To the girl that took me here.
Nice. I love that. That's the way that we do it.
Go.
So that's the way that Canadians, you bring up talent from Canada or from the States.
It's the acquisition strategy. It's the acquisition strategy of Canada.
It certainly is. I love this. I love this. Well, we've been speaking with Mikeal Cho, who is the co-founder of a company called OOMF. Go to oomf.com, OOOMF.com, or LaunchThisYear.com. We'll have you back on to finish this interview and dive into specific tactics in order to be able to build out your app next time we have him on. So, Mikeal, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much.
For those of you who are still out there watching, listening, I really appreciate it. Whatever you're doing, wherever you are, I don't care if you're at the gym, if you're sleeping, if you wake up midway through this, you're hearing my voice, it means a ton to me. So please go and support these guys, these entrepreneurs that are building these things for us, for this industry to move it forward. Go and support these guys. Go to oomf.com, go to LaunchThisYear.com, shout it out on Twitter, tell them that you appreciate what they do, and it will make my day to see that. It's my only currency right now, so please go and do that and support Mikeal. But until next time, we'll see you on Untitled.tv. Thanks, Mikeal.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you very much.